We now move on to our Week 7 predictions.
Like it's not going well. I can't imagine it going well anytime soon.
Last week, the Lions looked pretty good, having DeAndre Swift and Kenny Golladay both go over 100 yards in their respective categories.
But it's not going to matter because the Falcons are going to outscore the Lions like 45-37, and the Falcons are going to win.
Hey everyone, welcome to the WNP podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mitchelson. Join me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how you doing today?
I am pretty swell is how I always have to start the show, but that's not really the case. Went, I think, 2-3 in fantasy this week and a couple rough losses, so, not the happiest, but I'm hanging in, I guess. Just ready to move on. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. I got a big win in fantasy this week, and I had Michael Pirine starting. So whoever lost to me just sucks, like so
they
bad.
Really do. They really do.
I know Giuseppe. He made me promise him that I would bring that up on the pod because obviously it was Chase that I beat with the Michael Pirine in my starting lineup. Rough week for you, Chase, but hey, it doesn't get worse than. Go ahead.
No, it's not a rough week for me. It's a rough week for Zeke when he has to get literally a point more than frickin' what's his nuts, CeeDee Lamb. But the Cowboys just laid a literal shit on the field. They were so bad, brutal, embarrassing. Zeke had 2 fumbles. He had 49 total yards. He had like 8 receptions for 30 yards. What the hell is going on?
That is the Andy Dalton effect. I'll be honest.
Yeah, shit.
Dude is not the best. But, hey, the Bengals don't have to deal with them anymore, so that's all I care about. But, yeah, Chase, we are definitely doing some Week 7 predictions. Even though we did not come on for Week 6 predictions, we still made them. Oh, boy, an absolute brutal week by both of us. I think I finished 7-7. You finished 6-8. That is our worst performance yet this year. And with that overall performance, it now puts us at a total of 56-35 for me, putting me at 62%. And then you are at 53-38 at 58%. So brutal week just absolutely destroys our overall numbers.
Yeah, I mean, at least we're both borderline playoff teams with those types of records. So, it's like last week is really what killed us. We were doing pretty solid up until then. This week, I haven't looked at the schedule quite yet. I like making them directly on the pod. I know a couple games, but now you mentioned before we started recording that you were like, do I do this or that on a lot of them, and you still haven't made a couple decisions yet. So, this could be another week where we're just in the toilet.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the games that you and I both got wrong that I think you and I both thought was kind of a shoo-in was Green Bay over Tampa, and Tampa just absolutely obliterated Green Bay. Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers couldn't get anything going. That was a really tough game, and that kind of segues me into the quarterly power rankings we did. So we do the quarterly power rankings. The next week, we see both of our number 3 teams fall. Obviously, Tampa Bay, they lose to Chicago. That was my number 3 team. That really hurt. Your number 3 team, the Bills, they get pummeled by the Titans on Monday Night Football. Or was it Tuesday night? I think it was Tuesday night.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate. And then we see Green Bay, who I don't remember where you had them. I know you had them top 4 for sure. I had them as my number 2. They fall, and it's a mess. Our power rankings are just getting absolutely obliterated. We didn't put Pittsburgh or Tennessee, or you had Pittsburgh at 10. I didn't have Pittsburgh, and then we both didn't have Tennessee, and both of those teams have been showing up recently. So kind of crazy how quickly tides can turn because our power rankings are now looking absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, It is what it is. Like it's the NFL for you. It's like, especially in a COVID year, you just never know what to expect. There's a couple teams that are going to remain constantly those best teams, but other than that, it's going to change around. It's kind of what we saw. I would have been, I would have liked to, kept being right and like kept my standings where they are. But of course, if I were to do them again right now, I'd have to adjust probably pretty significantly. It's hard not to put the Titans and Steelers like further up on that list as they, have just been producing, and the stupid ass Bears just keep winning somehow too. I just don't understand. But yeah, that's just the way she goes sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot to mention also our Kansas City Chiefs, who we had at that number one spot in our power rankings. That very next week, they lost to the Raiders. So I know you and I both had the Raiders in our top 10. So that was good on us. But to have KC number one and them to fall immediately the week after, that sucks as well. But Chase, we got some news we haven't been able to mention yet. Obviously missing last week, but we're going to hop into that now. First, Atlanta, they fired Dan Quinn. I mean, we've been calling this since week 2, week 3? And I said I would never pick the Falcons to win a game for the rest of the year unless Dan Quinn's gone. He's finally gone. Their first game without Dan Quinn, they just absolutely obliterate the Vikings 40-23.
It's kind of like the whole Bill O'Brien with the Texans thing where like maybe the team was just throwing to get him out of there. Like when you saw D-Watt's first game without Bill O'Brien, he looked fantastic. And this Falcons team, the first game without Dan Quinn, they lit it up offensively and defensively. They played pretty well too. So, I don't know. Like it's about time that he was fired. I really thought he was going to get the can in the offseason. I guess better late than never. Still a couple teams that have yet to make those coaching changes that I'm, especially the Jets. I'm surprised that Adam Gase is still holding on to his job somehow. Even the Lions, the Lions got a win last week. That saves Patricia's job right there. I don't think he's going anywhere the rest of the year now, which could be good, could be bad. I don't know. We'll see. But really, like the main guy to focus on is Gase. It's mind blowing that he still has his job. Especially since we've seen what the Texans and Falcons have done since their coaching change. That should kind of make the Jets want to make that change more.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 40-23 stat line for the Falcons versus Vikings, kind of deceiving because 16 of the Vikings' points came in garbage time, came in that fourth quarter when the game was already obviously over. So team played really well as a whole. And I honestly don't know who to pick with who they play this week. So we'll have to get onto that a little bit later. But going back to your point on coaches that need to be fired, Zach Taylor stepped right up. Holy shit. I think he's 3-18-1 in his career. Terrible.
It's Matt Pat stat line.
He was up 21-0 going into the second quarter. The second quarter, up 21-0. They scored on their first 4 drives. They scored 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal, first 4 drives. The rest of the time, they get nothing. So, Zach Taylor, not sure what that was. That was the worst turtle job I've ever seen in the history of sports. It's time to go. And now we're seeing people like John Ross. He wants a trade. Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins frustrated that they have now been demoted to only third down players, which is asinine in my opinion. And then AJ Green, he had another really bad week in week 5, and we saw a clip. I thought, and most people thought, he said that he wanted to be traded. He came out, said that's not the case. I want to stay with the Bengals. Week 6, he finally shows up. Has a great game, 8 receptions, just under 100 yards, and really looked like his old self. So, I mean, that's a positive, but Zach Taylor's starting to lose the room when you have guys like Carlos Dunlap, Geno Atkins saying they're frustrated with their current role, and John Ross wanting to leave. I mean, I don't really put much on John Ross because, let's be honest, he's been a giant bust, but it is what it is.
So, we're going to shout out a guy, Flemlo Raps, here real quick on YouTube. He's a great one of the best YouTubers that I subscribe to, maybe my favorite one. He did a video on John Ross just the other day. I watched it today, and, he brought up a good point. Like, I don't know what happened with John Ross. Last season and the season before, when he was used, like, he looked good, and, he got hurt last year, cut a season short, but the prior season, he had 7 red zone touchdowns, and then this year, when he was on the field, he just, he looked scared. He just didn't really look fully engaged. And I don't get how that happens. I can't imagine he just showed up and just felt like that. I feel like it's something that's coached into him, schemed into him. I don't know. So, I think it's going to be like a Corey Davis thing where, like, I think Corey Davis, when he goes somewhere else, inevitably this offseason, he's going to be fantastic. I think John Ross has that same potential too, because, like, you've seen him do it in the NFL. He definitely has the ability. So I think he gets another chance of the coach a little more trust in him. He could do way better.
Maybe. I'm not. I mean, then again, Marvin Lewis and Zach Taylor haven't shown the offensive prowess to use him in the correct way. But at the same time, like, there's only been a few flashes, even though he had 7 touchdowns last year, that none of those were like huge flashes. I mean, 2 of them were. But I don't know. I just haven't seen enough from him. I mean, he was a guy that coming into the draft, it sounded like Marvin Lewis was all in on John Ross. And I was like, please, for the love of God, don't take John Ross. Don't take Reuben Foster. And we see how both have panned out thus far in their career. Not great. So, me, smarter than Marvin Lewis, confirmed.
Okay, everyone is, though.
Like, it's just so unfortunate because how many times did I tell you and the guys that I think the Bengals could have the best wide receiver core? Well, A.J. Green has looked terrible. John Ross has been healthied. Auden Tate has been healthied. Mike Thomas, who comes in from the Rams, he looks like our obvious number 4 right now, and that's not really saying much. Boyd has been consistent, and T. Higgins has been an absolute joy to watch. As a rookie, I didn't expect much from him, but he's come in, looked really good, put up over 100 yards in our last game, but I don't know. I think this wide receiver core, if A.J. Green plays like he did in the first 5 weeks, it's average at best. But if A.J. Green can continue on his pass game, get a little hot streak going, then maybe we're back to a top 5 wide receiver core. Who knows? But Chase, let's not move off the Bengals, yeah, and talk a little bit about Tua time. As today it was, or maybe it was yesterday, it was announced that Tua will now be the starter in Miami after their bye week. This one came as a little bit of a shock to me, not because obviously everyone wants to see Tua, but because Ryan Fitzpatrick's been playing so well. I know he was a little bit shocked too, disappointed. He said that he felt like this was his team and he had complete control and he was going to help them make the playoffs. But obviously he gets demoted to backup. Tua's in. What are your thoughts?
This is still a really weak roster when you compare it to a lot of NFL teams, and they're 3-2 right now. Like, Fitz has played really well. He, his touchdown interception ratio is 10-7, which isn't like great. We look at the stats like that, but it's a lot further than that. He's been running the ball well. He's managed the game perfectly. For a team like that, in order to get wins, like, you got to manage the game, and that's what he's done, and he's done without flaw. So I don't get mentioning him. Like, I mean, I understand you want to play Tua, but this is a guy who suffered a massive injury last year. Why not let him sit for the year? I thought he needed a full year to sit and watch it anyway, and I thought Miami would have been a good place to do it. Fitz, even though he's not been like an elite guy's career, he's never really been given like a fair chance. He seemed to always come in, and then there's just like the next up and coming quarterback prospect always there ready to take a spot, and you just got to throw him in at some point since you have him there. So, Fitz is kind of given, luck of the draw, just bad luck. I would have been perfectly fine with Tua sitting the rest of the year, letting Fitz do his thing. But at this point now, I just got to root for Tua. Hope he has success. It'd be a great story if he does.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited to see what Tua can do. Obviously, we've seen Herbert and Burrow come in and look immaculate so far through their rookie season. So I'm very excited to see what Tua can do because a lot of people had Tua as their number 1 over Burrow and Herbert. So we'll have to see what he does. I feel for Fitzmagic, but we all know the type of guy he is. He's going to walk in the building with the same exact attitude. Even though he's disappointed and heartbroken about the situation, he's going to walk in with the same attitude, try to boost Tua the best he can, and be the ultimate team player. So hopefully Fitz can get another chance elsewhere if Tua does happen to be the guy, the future for this Miami Dolphins team. But yeah, best of luck to Tua and Fitzmagic. But Chase, we now move on to talking about the Jets. Joe Namath, legendary quarterback there from the Jets. He came out and said, if the Jets have the first overall pick, it's going to be super hard to pass Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, they got Sam Darnold right now. He's dealing with an injury, but they took him very high. They took him 3rd overall, I believe, 3 years ago. And it really hasn't worked. Is it because of Sam Darnold? Is it because of Adam Gase? Is it because of both? What are your thoughts on if the Jets get the first overall pick? Do they need to take Trevor Lawrence? Do they need to trade the pick for multiple assets? What is your thoughts?
They 100% need to take Trevor Lawrence. He's too good not to take. He's got all the tools that you want out of an elite NFL quarterback, a great NFL quarterback. You can't pass on a guy like this. I like Sam Darnold. Don't get me wrong. Regardless, even if he got a new coach in New York, I think his time there is just done. He needs to go somewhere else, get a fresh start, and I think he'll get that opportunity. Being a high pick, showing some talent, because he has that talent. Like, there's no doubt about it, and he knows the game too. He's not been given a fair shake, so I think he's a guy that could go somewhere. A team that might want to make a change at QB next year. I don't know who that might be, other than the guys drafting high. But maybe he gets an opportunity. If not, maybe he sits for a year, just like what Jameis is about to trying to do this year. But he definitely has a chance elsewhere. But you can't pass on a guy like Trevor Lawrence at first overall.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm a big Sam Darnold fan, but if you have the chance at Trevor Lawrence and it hasn't worked so far with Sam Darnold, I think you got to go with Trevor Lawrence. And Sam Darnold, possible places for him. Hey, maybe Tampa Bay. Tom Brady's not going to be there forever. Maybe Indianapolis. Phillip Rivers is there, but he's obviously a lot older. Jacoby Brissett didn't really prove much last year. Jacob Eason's there, who they drafted, but we're still a little bit unsure on how his talent will develop into an NFL player. So there's some options out there for Sam Darnold, and I hope he gets one of those and is able to prove himself as a top quarterback in this league, because that's what I thought he could be. But I got to agree with you, Chase. Trevor Lawrence, too good for the Jets to pass up. But let's now talk about another quarterback from the AFC East. That would be your love, Josh Allen. He looked great. When we did our quarterly rankings, we said that he was top 3 in the MVP race. Well, these last 2 games, he's been pretty poor. That comes with 2 losses for Buffalo as well. What changed, Chase? What are you looking at right now thinking about Josh Allen?
Well, he's definitely played in better competition the last 2 games. Just there's no denying that. That definitely is part of it. He kind of was able to coast his way starting off the season. I still don't think it was just because he was playing weak teams. At the end of the day, every team is still a good team in the NFL, and you still have to be able to compete and play at a high level. And he did that. He showed that he could do that. He way exceeded anything he'd done in previous years, those first 4 weeks. The last 2 weeks, he's kind of regressed. I didn't expect him to play at that pace going forward that he had. That was just not possible. That was a jump that has literally never been seen before in the NFL for a third-year player, or a third-year quarterback, I should say. So, you can't expect anything like that to keep going. Going forward, I still think he can continue. Maybe play at MVP level. Coming in the year, I didn't think he'd be able to be an MVP in conversation, but this year he has so far. Maybe he can still play like that. I'd lean towards probably not, but he could still play at a very high level. Really help this Bills team. They're still in a great spot to win the division. They should very easily do that, in my opinion. The Patriots have just not looked like the Patriots from the last 20 years. So this is really the Bills' time to win, and Josh Allen just needs to kind of step it up and figure it out a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. His first 4 games, he hovered around that 70% completion rate, averaged just above 300 yards a game, and had 12 touchdowns in that time span with only 1 interception. In the last 2 games, he's had a 63 and 51% completion rate, 263 yards against Tennessee, only 122 against Kansas City. 2 touchdowns in both games, and then 3 touchdowns between the 2 games. So he's definitely faltered a little bit. I think he gets back on track this week versus the Jets. If he doesn't go back to that MVP level, I'm a little bit worried because the Jets are terrible. We all know that. And he did that against not amazing teams, but better teams than the Jets. So I need to see him get back to that level. If I think he can be an MVP level talent, MVP level player this year, we'll just have to see how he handles the Jets defense. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard for him.
It shouldn't be, but at the same time, they might not need him to play like that. They might get off to an early lead, and you just kind of run the ball from there. wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't even be that shocked if he threw 20 times or less this game, because they get up, like their defense is so good, the Jets aren't scoring at all offensively. So as long as they score in their first possession or two, and then like, there's no chance the Jets come in, they just run the ball down their throats at that point. So I wouldn't even be surprised if he throws, like a very small amount of passes.
I'm going to disagree with that point just because in their first 3 or 4 games, they came out hot and had big wins. We're up double, triple the amount of score that the other teams had. They versed the Jets in week 1, and Josh Allen was great. So threw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I got to see that same thing. And if they're not going to put their foot on the gas, not going to have that killer instinct like they did in the first 4 games, then that means that Sean McDermott is a little bit worried about that QB situation, which makes me worry. So,
well, I just got to say that like their biggest win was like so far this season was week 1 against the Jets, which was a 10-point win. The rest were 7 points or 3 points. So those aren't like big wins where he still got to throw the ball. Where if they get up 2 scores, like I don't think it's going to matter, especially early.
No, but we talked about how the Bills through those first 4 weeks, how they had giant leads. They were absolutely destroying teams in the first half, and they kept going, and then they started to turtle in the second half. That was our biggest complaint about them. So a 10-point lead, yes, isn't very big, but when they're up like 21 at halftime, that first half, Josh Allen was still firing the ball. So I think that Josh Allen will throw over 20 times, and I think he needs to show that MVP level again. But that's just my opinion. All right, Chase, do you want to talk about anything else around the league right now before we hop in our predictions?
The one thing that you have not mentioned that I think really needs talking about is Antonio Brown. He can play following week 8. He has an 8-game suspension. So a team can sign him at any point. Then he's eligible to practice and play coming up week 8. There has been some traction gaining ground that maybe he's signing with the Seahawks. I heard something that maybe the Packers would be interested too. We know that the Seahawks are not the only team interested, according to Adam Schefter. But it looks like Antonio Brown will be signing in the NFL at some point, unless the NFL decides to extend their suspension, which is possible. Wouldn't be the first time the NFL has done something like that. But what are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, I didn't mention it because Antonio Clown is a joke. I'm interested, though, to see what happens because obviously he had the chance with the Raiders and just went just off the charts, went absolutely nuts. Then he gets traded to the Patriots. It's like, okay, now you're in a system with Tom Brady. You can do some good things. And again, goes absolutely off the rails after 1 week with the Patriots. So I'm very interested to see what happens. I think there was a lot of mental instability with him, and I just don't know. I think if he comes back, it might be like a Josh Gordon situation where he plays. He is not his normal self when he plays. He's not that all-star wide receiver. And then maybe a couple games down the road, he's out again, having to deal with his mental issues. So I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be a Josh Gordon situation all over again.
It's very well possible. It wouldn't surprise me. For the sake of my dynasty team in your league, I have him there. If he can come and play like he did before, that'd be fantastic. But obviously, I'm not expecting that. If he goes to the Seahawks, he's not taking over the job of DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, so he'll be at best or number 3 in an offense where at that point, like Russ is throwing to his 1 and 2 guys, then he'll look towards his tight end and running back, then he'll look towards his third receiver. So AB will be a really afterthought at that point. So if he goes there, or even like a lot of other teams, he really wouldn't just jump right top of the depth chart. So I don't have much of expectations. I would be shocked if he's not signed by a team, especially if his suspension does not get extended. But yeah, if it's to a team like the Seahawks, I don't know what kind of impact he has.
And Chase, let me ask you this. Obviously, Antonio Brown was a top 3 wide receiver when he was at his prime, when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But since he's been gone, have you missed him or have you thought of his name once?
Not really, no. The only time I have is if you're talking about great receivers of the past whatever years. You'd be like, man, AB was so great until he went off the wall. That's really about it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think the only name at wide receiver where I'd be like, oh my gosh, what happened to this guy if he like retired right now would be Julio Jones. Like Julio is just a dominant force out there, and obviously I'd miss him if he's gone. But I haven't felt that way with AB. I don't know if it's because he was on the Steelers and I despise the Steelers, or what it was. Just I don't know. It seems like I haven't thought about him whatsoever when that news came out today that his suspension was coming close to an end. I was like, oh yeah, Antonio Brown, he's still a person. But hey, it also could be because of the dominant wide receiver performance we've seen out of rookies over the past 2 years. We've had some great rookie wide receivers, and that can definitely skew our look of the NFL when it comes to the wide receiver core. So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't really missed AB, but hey, could be back. We'll see what happens.
We will.
All right, Chase, let's now move on to our Week 7 predictions. Like I mentioned earlier, we aren't doing so hot based off of last week, only at hovering around that 60% mark, you and I. I'm up 3 games, so not a big deal, but it is what it is. We now move on to our Week 7 predictions. First up, Chase, New York Giants at Philadelphia. Who you got?
Philly slam dunk, not even a question.
Yeah, this one's kind of interesting. I took Philly as well, but the Giants did look decent last week, but the competition wasn't too great. So, all right, we now move on to Pittsburgh at Tennessee, 2 teams that are undefeated. I think this is going to be a really good matchup, and this was one of the matchups that I have yet to predict.
Yeah, I really don't know on this one. It's not going to be like a super high passing game. I feel like it's going to be like, there's going to be passing still involved, but the running game's going to try to get heavily involved. Defense is going to play well. This will be a very close game. I think I'm going to lean the Tennessee Titans. I think Derrick Henry finds the end zone at least once, maybe twice, and that's just going to be enough to help him put over the edge.
So while you were making your decision, I wrote down Pittsburgh and Tennessee for my winner because I am still up in the air about it. Pittsburgh, obviously a great defense. I think they can do a lot to slow down Derrick Henry. But is Pittsburgh's offense, which I think is kind of average at best, is that good enough to beat the Titans? I don't know. This one's so tough for me because I hate both teams as well. I'll go Pittsburgh just to switch it up. You're going the Titans. I'll take Pittsburgh, I guess.
Fair enough.
All right, moving on. Dallas at Washington.
I mean, with Andy Dalton at the helm, the Cowboys looked so bad, but I really don't know. The Cowboys defense, it could be a much better defense. Like they're really not that special. So if the offense isn't going, with Washington's defense actually being pretty good, and it might be able to stuff them, maybe they can sneak one in there and maybe a lower scoring affair. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Washington football team just because why not? This division's such a mess as it is. Might as well keep it messy.
Yeah, I had Dallas written down and totally forgot about how Andy Dalton's a starting quarterback there now. That defensive line at Washington is really good. Chase Young has 10 pressures, which is tied for first in rookies with pressuring the quarterback. So
He's been hurt too.
Yeah. So he's been great. The whole defensive line has looked pretty good for Washington. But I think I'm still going to give it to Dallas.
I can't fault you.
I think they're going to... I don't know. I think they got to rely more on Zeke. And the nice thing is...
Me too.
The nice thing is, this week, they're not playing an offensive dynamo like how Arizona can be if Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are at the top of their game. So if they can stay close, they can continue to run the ball, and maybe they'll take the victory. That one's close, though. All right, Chase, this one, pretty tough one. Buffalo versus the Jets. This one is in MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say the Jets are going to put up 60 points.
Perfect. Writing that down.
Yeah, no. It's going to be the Bills. The Jets are going to continue to embarrass themselves. I don't want them to go 0-16 because I like having that exclusive club for the Lions and like the Browns too, unfortunately. But at the same time, it'd be kind of cool to see another 0-16 team. So you know what, Jets? I guess you can just keep losing now. I'll let you join the club.
All right. Next up, Carolina at New Orleans. New Orleans coming off a bye this week.
Guess who doesn't care that they're coming off of a bye? Me. I'm picking the Panthers. I just don't like what the Saints have done on the field. I know Michael Thomas should be back, no issues, but I don't care. Even when he was there before he got hurt, he still did not impress me very much. I just like the only options on offense are at this point are when they're all healthy. Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, so it's easy to shut down if you're able to. I know they're two world-class talents, but if you can figure it out, you can shut them down. So I'm gonna go with the Panthers. I think it'll be a close game. I could very easily be wrong on this one, but I might as well go with the Panthers.
What about your boy Traquan Smith? You got him in Dynasty.
Drew Brees said Traquan's going to have a breakout year this year. Traquan has had a couple good games with Michael Thomas out. He's had a couple invisible games with Michael Thomas out as well. So he's going to go back to being the number 3, which is really the number 6 receiving option on that team.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm going to take the Saints, though. Coming off a bye, Drew Brees was able to plug his arm into the Tesla charger. So his arm's going to be all charged up and ready to go against the Panthers.
Ready to throw it 11 yards downfield.
Hey, it's 12 now. You charge that bad boy to the max. I love Matt Rule. I love the Panthers, but without CMC, I think it's going to be pretty tough to beat a team like the Saints, even though they have somewhat struggled this year. All right, moving on. Green Bay at Houston. Two of the top quarterback talents in the league right now. Aaron Rodgers faces off against Deshaun Watson. You're taking who?
You know what? I think I'm going to go with Houston in this one. I really like the way they looked without Bill O'Brien so far. I hope that keeps continuing. So it should be a close game, and this is another one where I could very easily be wrong. I've kind of gone with, in the closer games, I've gone with all, the kind of underdog teams, I guess, so far. But, yeah, I don't know. I got a feeling that the Texans are going to be able to sneak one out here. It should be an entertaining offensive game. I hope Devontae Adams can get 9 receiving touchdowns, just really cement that win for me. But, yeah, go Texans.
Yeah, it's possible for the Texans to take this one. They could do some heavy research in that Green Bay-Tampa Bay game and see what Tampa did to shut down the two Aarons. However, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm taking Green Bay in this one. I think Aaron Rodgers is so good. Aaron Jones is so good, and they're going to want to bounce back so hard after losing to Tampa Bay. They're going to have that hunger. They're going to have that drive. So they're going to take that Green Bay Packers team over the hump and beat the Texans. Also, I don't know who Jair Alexander is going to be matching up against, but I think it's going to be a pretty easy matchup for him. Texans don't have great wide receivers, so Sean Watson might have a bad day facing Jair. We'll see. All right, Chase, Battle of Ohio. We've seen this one once so far this year. We're about to see it again. The Cleveland Browns travel to Paul Brown Stadium to verse the Cincinnati Bengals.
Don't worry, I'm taking the Browns in this one. Maybe the Bengals have a chance to win this time. I can't choose the Bengals with the way they've looked. Zach Taylor does not have a grip of this team. It's not going well. I can't imagine it going well anytime soon. I think Joe Burrow is good enough to eventually put this team on his back, regardless of what his coaching is doing, and help him win. But he's still a rookie quarterback right now. It's hard for a rookie quarterback, regardless of age and experience and what you've done so far, to just get up and do that. So I don't think he's going to be able to do it quite yet this week. Maybe we start seeing some flash of that this season. Going into next season, I think you'll see that a lot more often. But yeah, he's not ready for that, so I got to go with the Browns.
I'm not sure who to take in this one. This was another game where I left it open. Obviously, no Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb was absolutely dominant in that Week 2 performance against the Bengals. But in the last 3 games for the Bengals, they beat Jacksonville, they lost to the Ravens, and it was a bad offensive showing. However, the defense did stifle the Ravens a little bit, only letting 20 points up. 7 points came from a pick 6, so that's why the score reads 27. But the defense looked somewhat good. And then against the Colts, this Bengals team was absolutely dominant through the first 20-25 minutes, but then they lost it. So I'm kind of up in the air on it. I'm probably going to go Cleveland, but I think with Chubb out, there's a possibility for the Bengals to sneak an upset here.
I mean, I wouldn't complain because like I want Joe Burrow to do well. I like a lot of those Bengals guys, but it's just hard for me to choose.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Against the Colts, who have a great defensive line and have one of the better defenses in the league, the offensive line for the Bengals actually did decent. They didn't let Joe Burrow get sacked 8 times for the third time this year. They were actually somewhat solid. So this one's very confusing for me because the Bengals are in just such a weird spot, and the Cleveland Browns are a little bit hurt right now with Nick Chubb being out, and then Baker Mayfield just got absolutely destroyed last week against the Steelers. Maybe that team's demoralized. Maybe the Bengals can take a win. Not really sure. Let's now move on to Detroit versus Atlanta. This one is down in Georgia. Who's going to take it? DeAndre Swift or Todd Gurley, both former Georgia Bulldogs?
I heard a cool stat. This is going to be Matt Stafford's first game in the state of Georgia since he played college there. So Matt Stafford's going to want to come in. He's going to want to dominate. And he's going to play really well. DeAndre Swift is going to play really well as well, but it's not going to matter because the Falcons are going to outscore the Lions like 45-37, and the Falcons are going to win.
How long has Stafford been in the league? Over 10 years, yeah? And this is only his first game in Georgia? What?
Yeah, I'm pretty like they've definitely been there at least once while he's been in the Lions. There's no way they haven't been, but he was probably hurt. It was probably early in his career.
Gotcha. That is kind of crazy. This is another tough one for me. This is another one that I just didn't fill out yet because Atlanta has sucked the first 5 weeks. They get rid of Dan Quinn. They look absolutely dominant. However, last week the Lions looked pretty good, having DeAndre Swift and Kenny Galladay both go over 100 yards in their respective categories. Going to be a close game, I think. But if Julio and Ridley are healthy, I'm going to go Atlanta. It's a close game, though. Could go either way in my mind.
I'll enjoy watching it.
All right, Seattle at Arizona. Russell Wilson versus the younger version of Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray. Who are you taking?
This should be a pretty entertaining game. I got to go with the Seahawks. They're coming off a bye. They're going to be fresh, ready to go. DK is just too legit. I like Chris Carson a lot. He's looked great this year. This team they got too much going for them offensively for a Cardinals defense, which really isn't that great. They spent a high pick on Isaiah Simmons and just don't use him this year for whatever reason. So I got to go with the Seahawks.
I'm agreeing with you on this one. Seahawks for me as well. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the LA Chargers. Who you got?
I actually think this might be an entertaining game. It's not going to be like a pretty entertaining game, but it could be kind of a messy one where like the Jags piece it together enough. A couple big plays really flash, and then Herbert, he throws a couple bombs, makes a couple crazy plays. I'll lean with the Chargers in this one. Home team, Justin Herbert is looking really good so far. Hopefully he can keep it going. Just a better team in general, but I don't think the Jags' chance to win is 0. I think they have a legitimate shot to win.
Yeah, it could be possible. I mean, we saw the Bengals. They almost took one off the Chargers in week 1 when they had a rookie Joe Burrow appearing in his first ever game. So it's possible, but I'm going the Chargers in this one. I think Justin Herbert has just continued to get better through his last couple of games, and I'm excited to see what else he can do here. But going Chargers as well. Next up, San Francisco at New England. This one's going to be an interesting game. San Francisco had a big win last week against the LA Rams. New England, they had a pretty poor loss. Who you taking?
This is probably the hardest matchup for me, honestly, of the week. I don't know. My gut tells me the Patriots. Cam, he can go out there and run the ball pretty well. Especially with no Bosa or what's his face, Solomon Thomas. Especially without them for the 49ers. I think this could be a pretty run heavy game for both teams, as it usually is for the Niners. But I think Cam could run the ball pretty well. We might see Sony break off a couple big runs, maybe Damian Harris, maybe Rex Burkhead, since they still use him for whatever the hell reason. It should be a closer game. Just give me the Patriots, though.
Yeah, I'm going the Patriots as well in this one. San Francisco won last week, I think primarily because of Jimmy G. Jimmy Garoppolo finally looked like a competent quarterback this year. Obviously, we saw flashes last year from him, but this year we really didn't see anything until last week. I think, though, if they do rely on Jimmy G in the passing game, they're going to have a hard time. Obviously, Stephon Gilmore on the other side. And like you were saying, I think the Patriots could have a very nice run attack against a defensive line that doesn't have Bosa and Thomas. So give me the Patriots as well. All right, this next game, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. Up in Denver, that air's a little bit thinner, a little bit tougher to breathe. Also, Denver, big win over the Patriots last week.
Yeah, but the Broncos compare in no way, shape, or form in any spot of the field, especially with their roster the way it is right now with injuries and stuff to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to win this one. I think it's going to be fairly handedly. The air's not going to matter enough. It's just Harrison Butker might hit a 59-yard field goal just for the hell of it. So yeah, I gotta go with the Chiefs. Broncos, I don't think they have much of a chance.
Yeah, I agree here. I'm taking the Chiefs as well. We're just trying to pump the tires of some people. Hopefully they could make that Denver prediction. But yeah, I think it's a little bit too lofty for this matchup. All right, next, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Las Vegas. We get to see a Allegiant Stadium again. Wow, what a beautiful stadium. Who are you taking in this one?
So, you know the Bucs looked great last week against the Packers. But it doesn't matter because the Raiders are elite. They are the best team in the NFL. They're going to be number one in my power rankings when we do it week 8 because they're going to keep winning. So the Raiders, they're going to beat the Bucs. Derek Carr is going to go on his MVP season run. Josh Jacobs is going to keep getting spoon-fed the ball, get like 100 rushes a game. This team, offensively, it's really like not an impressive offense, but it all works so well and just gets done, and then the defense does what it needs to do in order to help that offense. Like it all just works. It's I don't want to compare it to the Patriots, but it's kind of like what the Patriots have done. They never had, like, they have some star players, don't get me wrong, but they're not like a star-studded team compared to some of the rosters. They just collectively get it done, and that's what the Raiders have kind of been able to do. So I think it's going to keep going.
Yeah, Chase, it's a little bit lofty to have them number one in your power rankings, but
I'm not gonna like legitimately say that, but that's just hyping them up.
Yeah, and if you're trying to hype them up or try to get me a little bit flustered, it didn't work because I had Vegas marked down since I did my predictions before we came on air. I think Tampa, they're very happy with their big win over Green Bay. Could be overlooking the Raiders just a bit, and the Raiders are coming off of a bye. They're also in their new stadium. I feel like there's just too much stuff going in favor of the Raiders for them not to win this game. So, gotta agree with you on that one. Hopefully, Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs can put together a real nice game for this Raiders team. And boy, oh boy, I definitely need it from Josh Jacobs. He's been solid, but he hasn't lived up to that first game that we saw from him this year, where he had 3 touchdowns. I was hoping that was going to be an every week thing.
You thought he was going to put up 48 touchdowns?
I was hoping that. I mean,
yeah, it's a little lofty.
All right, Chase. Final game of the week. It's the Chicago Bears. I mean, we talked about them. For some reason, they keep winning, even though we think they suck. The Bears suck. They travel to LA to play the Rams. I don't know. This one's kind of tough because the Bears, they suck, but they're 5-1. The Rams, we thought they were better than what they've looked recently, losing to San Francisco last week. Who you got?
I just want to go the opposite of whoever you choose. So I hope I'm gonna guess right. Just give me the Bears, dude. They just keep winning. I don't care if they're on the road. I don't care if it's Monday night. I don't care if Nick Foles actually sucks, even though he does suck. They just keep winning for whatever damn reason. They're winning so ugly, and it's just gonna keep happening.
Yeah, this is one of those teams like the Falcons, but opposite. I never take the Bears, and they always win. Where the first 3 weeks I took the Falcons all 3 weeks, and they lost every week. But I'm going to keep going with it. Fuck the Bears. I'm taking the Rams. We'll see if it works out. It probably won't because every single time I've picked against the Bears, they've won. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. I think the Rams can take this one. Jared Goff has to look good for them to do that. I mean, Darrell Henderson has been absolutely amazing in that backfield.
He really
so
has.
happy about that. Obviously, you traded him to me in Dynasty, so thank you for that.
I needed Rob Anderson, man. It helps me more this year.
Robbie Anderson's been a beauty too. Absolutely
He
love
has.
both of those guys. But yeah, that's it for our predictions. Chase and I have, let me read here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 differences this week. So that means
There
we
we go.
will not result in a tie. Chase
Unless
is
an NFL
down.
team ties.
What's that?
Unless one of our opposite prediction ties.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that's possible. And at that point, might as well cry.
Yeah, barely or almost impossible for Chase and I to tie. I'm up 3 games right now, and we have 5 differences. So if Chase just destroys me this week in our differences, then he could take the lead. So we'll have to see how that works. But yeah, that's it for the episode. Want to thank you guys for coming out, giving us a listen. If you guys want to stay up to date with all that we do, you can follow us on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. That's again on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. If you're looking for a Facebook or Instagram link for our pages there, they will be down in the description of both whatever you're listening on both YouTube or Spotify, Apple Music, all that kind of stuff. If you are listening on YouTube, if you could give us a like, give us a comment, and give us a subscribe, make sure to hit that bell. It'll let you know when our new episodes come out. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or anything else, if you could give us a 5-star rating, that would be very much appreciated. Again, we want to thank you guys for coming out. And as always, we're not professionals.